Let me tell you something interesting about the people who stay quiet on social media. The ones who never post, never announce anything, never feel the need to show what they're doing. In a world where everyone is constantly broadcasting, their silence almost feels unusual, maybe even unsettling. But if you've ever wondered what's going on behind that quiet, it's a lot more layered than people think. We live in a time where moments barely get a chance to breathe before being packaged into a story, a caption, a highlight. Every emotion becomes content. Every thought becomes a performance. Everything has an audience. But some people don't participate in that at all. They scroll, they observe, they disappear into the background, and you barely see traces of their life online. And for some reason, that confuses people. They assume it's shyness or introversion or a lack of confidence. But honestly, that's rarely the full truth. There's a whole psychology behind staying invisible in a world obsessed with being seen. For some people, that silence is a form of control. It's not emptiness, it's not avoidance. It's the choice to decide what the world doesn't get to access. Because posting, even when we don't admit it, is a form of exposure. You're opening a door and letting people in, people who can judge, misunderstand, compare, or twist something that mattered to you. So certain people keep their world small, not because they're hiding, but because they're protecting what feels real. And here's the part nobody talks about. The people who don't post are often the ones who think the most deeply. They're the ones who take their time. They'll watch everything without needing to interrupt it. They'll understand the room without ever stepping to the front of it. They aren't chasing attention, they're processing it. They aren't busy proving who they are, they're busy becoming it. Psychologists even point out that people who rarely post tend to score higher in introspection, emotional independence, and self-restraint. They're less influenced by comparison and less driven by external validation. In simpler words, they don't need the world to clap for them to feel secure about their identity. They rely more on an internal compass than on digital applause. And once you see it that way, their silence stops looking like absence. It starts looking like intention. Because if we're honest with ourselves, a lot of what we post online is curated, crafted, smoothed out. Social media teaches us to constantly package our lives into something digestible and impressive. We edit moments into something prettier than they really were. We share the angles that make sense, the thoughts that won't be misunderstood, the emotions that feel safe to reveal. But when someone chooses not to post, something changes. They stop thinking about how a moment looks to others and start paying attention to how it feels to them. They're not performing anymore. They're experiencing. And in a world where everything is slowly turning into an audition, that kind of authenticity feels like rebellion. Some people step away from posting because they get tired. Tired of the pressure to always appear happy. Tired of comparing themselves to everyone else's highlight reel. Tired of the subtle expectation to constantly contribute to an endless stream of content. They didn't wake up one day and decide, I will disappear. It just happened quietly, gradually, as they realized that being visible started feeling heavier than staying in the background. And there's something else, something almost philosophical. Social media makes us believe that to matter, we have to be noticed. But the people who don't post challenge that idea without saying a word. They show that a life can still be meaningful, even if no one sees it. That moments don't need an audience to be real. That value doesn't come from visibility. There's also this concept in psychology called psychological ownership. The feeling that something belongs deeply to you, a memory, an emotion, a moment. When you share it online, even a little bit, that ownership fades. It becomes open to interpretation, open to commentary, open to the world. So the people who remain silent often do it to protect that sense of ownership, not out of fear, but out of respect for what feels personal. And you'll notice something else if you've ever been off social media for a while. The world becomes richer. Time slows down. You start noticing things you completely missed before. A conversation feels more intimate. A walk feels more alive. You stop thinking in captions. You start living in details. And sometimes the people who don't post aren't avoiding connection. They're just choosing a different kind of connection, one that doesn't require proof. But let's not pretend silence is always peaceful. For some, not posting comes from fear, fear of judgment, fear of being misread, fear of being overlooked. Social media creates this invisible pressure, this feeling that someone is always watching, even when they aren't. It makes people hyper-aware of how they're perceived, and for many, that's exhausting. So they retreat not because they don't care, but because they care too much about being understood. And ironically, those quiet people often have the loudest inner world. They think deeply, they feel deeply, they observe deeply. They're not empty, they're overflowing. And maybe that's why they choose silence, not because they have nothing to say, but because not everything needs to be said publicly. We assume visibility and value go hand in hand, but they don't. Some of the most important things that shape you, your grief, your growth, your transformation, happen quietly, off camera, unposted. They don't need witnesses because they're not performances, they're experiences. And the people who don't post understand that. They remind us that privacy is not loneliness, it's intimacy with yourself. It's a way of hearing your own thoughts again. It's a way of finding out who you are without an audience influencing the answer. Yes, there are moments of doubt, moments where the silence feels like invisibility. But with time, something settles. You realize that your worth doesn't vanish when nobody is looking. You realize you don't fade when you stop performing. That quiet becomes a kind of confidence, not loud or flashy, but steady. And here's the beautiful part. The people who don't post often have the best stories, the richest experiences, the deepest insights. They just save them for the people who sit across from them, not the people who scroll past them. Because real connection, to them, isn't measured in likes or comments. It's measured in the moments that don't need to be shared to feel real. So the next time you notice someone who never posts, don't assume they're hiding. Maybe they're just living. Maybe they found peace in the parts of life that don't need an audience. Maybe they remember something the rest of us forget, that being unseen doesn't make you irrelevant, that being quiet doesn't make you empty, and that sometimes the truest version of yourself is the one the world never gets to witness. Because at the end of the day, we're not meant to be performances. We're meant to be people. And the ones who don't post, they're simply choosing to live, not broadcast.